Hey guys, welcome to Lost in the Reel. Sometimes you watch a beloved movie and you get so excited for the sequel, and it turns out to be a spectacular piece of hot garbage. But on rare occasion, the planets align and you get a sequel that is better than the original. And today, we will be celebrating those films that did the impossible.
So, before we start our list today, I want to preface by saying that all of these films don't have to be number two in the series. They could be the fourth, the fifth, or the sixth. It just has to be better than all of the films that came before it. So, Devin, what sequel was better than the original for you?
Well, starting at my number five is Army of Darkness, starring Bruce Campbell. Uh, it's from the 1980s sometime. I'll leave I'll leave your editing skills to say when. So it's kind of the third in the series. There's Evil Dead 1 and then Evil Dead 2, and Evil Dead 1 was supposed to be a serious horror movie, but it was so campy and cheesy that they basically remade the movie into Evil Dead 2, which is the same as the first movie, but then they actually made it into a cheesy comedy. Um, and it's one of those first that blend that horror and comedy genre. And then Army of Darkness is the continuation of Ash Bruce Campbell's story, and it's just so wonderfully cheesy. And it's not as scary and grotesque as Evil Dead is. It's just if you love that kind of like Duke Nukem, like quippy one-liner horror movies, it's just one of my favorites.
Yeah, I have not seen any of those films, unfortunately, but I've kind of been in the mood for campy B movie horror recently, so I definitely want to watch Army of Darkness for sure. My number five is also in the horror genre, but this one's a little bit more serious. My number five is going to be Saw 3, and I don't do that. I am a huge fan of this series, and I love the first one. The second one, not so much, but this third one I think is so good in really completing the trilogy, and it has so many twists and turns that I wasn't expecting, and I think it's probably the most intense out of all of the Saw films. And I wish they had just kept it at those three films because it was just the perfect ending to a really great horror franchise. And then, of course, it kept going, and there's like a million Saws. But Saw 3 is just a fantastic film.
Yeah, I'm just gonna have to take your word on that because I don't like torture flicks.
Yeah.
I think I Saw 5 with you, and it's the one where like the dude's skin is glued to the seat and he has to like rip his skin off, and that was
Yeah.
just that's too much for me.
It's
But yeah, I'll just have to take your word on that one. All right, continuing on my list, it seems that kind of horror comedy is a common theme in my list. Next is Adam's Family Values.
okay.
Now, this I just love this series as a whole. I do love the first one, but this I think Values just improves on everything that I liked from the first. I really love the relationship that Gomez has between him and Christopher Lloyd, who plays Uncle Fester. You don't get a lot of Uncle Fester in the first hour of the movie of the original, just because they don't know that he's Uncle Fester. Um, yeah, everything, like I said, everything from the first one is better in the second one, and how can you not love Angelica Houston? That's like prime Angelica Houston to me. Anyways, yeah, that's my number four.
That's a great choice. I really like that one. And it definitely does improve upon the original for sure, even though both are really good. My number four is Fast Five. And I absolutely just I love this series mostly as a whole, but the first four are really kind of lackluster and there's not a lot going on. And then somehow, some way, they decided, hey, let's do another Fast and the Furious sequel, but we're going to bring in The Rock and everyone else from all of the prior films, and we're going to create a family. And I think it worked really well for this series, obviously, because it's become such a huge, worldwide hit. And this one was the start of this series growing and becoming what it is today. I just think this series is so much fun, and I will stand by it till the day I die.
That's fair. I don't have much input for that.
Have you
But
have you ever seen any of them?
I saw Shaw and Hobbs.
Oh, that was good. That was good, right?
I don't know if
Yeah.
good is the word I would
Okay.
use.
Fine, fine.
I'm not a snob. I mean, if you enjoy it and it's better, then hey, it belongs on the list. I
Yes.
just probably, I don't know, cars are not really interesting to me.
Fair enough.
Um, Next is on my list is my number three, Star Trek Into Darkness.
Yes.
This again, I mean, what's to say? It just improves upon the first. You know, it's got that J.J. Abrams humor. You know, when it's appropriate, but also when the captain, his like higher up dies, and it's more emotional. I mean, I don't know. I love Carl Urban. The drama was deeper. The action was more intense. Benedict Cumberbatch was in it. And that's all I have to say about that.
I was actually just talking about this with a couple of friends. I absolutely love Star Trek Into Darkness, and this is the worst rated out of the three films in the Star Trek series, the revamp. And I'm shocked at that because I love this movie. I
Me too.
think Benedict Cumberbatch was an awesome choice as Khan. And I don't know. I don't know why there's so many haters out there for it.
People like the third one more than the second one. The third
Hmm.
one
At least
sucked
critics.
ass.
Yeah, critics like the third one better. I don't get
Okay,
it.
I
I
don't
don't
know.
get it.
Yeah, I guess they saw something in it I didn't.
Yeah, yeah. My number three is a little film that I absolutely love called The Raid 2.
Hmm.
Uh, and this movie surpasses the original in every way, shape, and form. The first one's great. It's a fun little action film. There's a lot of really great sequences. It's a lot like the Dread movie with Carl Urban in it, which I like both of those. But this one just has some of the best fight sequences and choreography of any film I've ever seen. It is action packed from beginning to end. And I have watched this movie so many times, and it just never gets old. And I know it's not as well known as some of the others on this list, but I hope that others do seek this out if they're in the mood for some fantastic action.
I do love the Raid movies. Yeah, it's got some really great shots in it and awesome action. I'm kind of jealous that I didn't pick that one myself actually. So whatevs. I don't know. I guess I snooze or lose. My number two, and I don't know, I don't think I'm going to get a lot of support on this one, but it's Muppets Most Wanted. I
Oh,
thoroughly enjoyed both of these movies, but I liked the second one more. The first one felt, and again, I liked the first one, but the first one felt like it was like, oh, hey, remember the Muppets? Like, they're kind of like going off of that nostalgia factor and they're like, oh, we're making a movie about remembering what the Muppets were like. Whereas the second one actually felt like a Muppets movie. You know, it wasn't like, oh, remember this. It's like, okay, we're doing the things that we used to do in the old movies. So yeah, out of the reboots, I like Muppets Most Wanted. I like the musical numbers more. Um, Jermaine, no, not Jermaine. Brett McKenzie, who was in Flight of the Conchords with Jermaine Clement, wrote all the music for this movie. And Jermaine Clement actually is in this as Muppet movies are one to do. He's one of the many cameos.
hmm.
Yeah, I liked it more. I hope you check it out because I kind of feel like it went under the radar.
Yeah, I have not seen this one. I saw the first Muppets. I liked it okay, but I didn't see the second one, and I didn't hear great things about it. So it kind of definitely just, passed my radar, like you said. So I will have to check that one out. My number two is Mad Max Fury Road.
Oh, dang it.
Ugh.
That's
Oh my God.
another one I feel like I should have thought of. Anyways,
I love this movie. It is one of my favorite films of all time. I just was so impressed that, so many years later, they were able to come back with a different person playing Mad Max in Tom Hardy and really show us something that we had never seen before. The action sequences are jaw-dropping, the music's incredible. Literally, you hold your breath throughout the entire film. I just absolutely love this film. And even though I do really like Mad Max the Road Warrior, and these two are very similar in how they're structured, I just love this one by far the best out of the Mad Max series.
yeah, and I don't know, I mean, Mel Gibson's kind of past his prime. He's one of those actors that you don't really think of fondly, even in his past roles like Lethal Weapon and stuff, because of just who he is nowadays. And I don't know, Tom Hardy just kind of he's Tom Hardy. He's fucking badass.
Yeah.
Uh, and he brought something really special to that role too, I think.
I completely agree. I am totally okay with the fact that they decided not to go with Mel Gibson, and also the addition of Charlize in Mad Max Fury Road was just perfect casting.
I'm not so excited about the next Mad Max movie that whoever knows. Well, because Tom Hardy's not in it.
Okay, but Anya Taylor-Joy as Furiosa.
Yeah, but Tom
How can
Hardy,
you not be excited?
Mad Max isn't in it. That's why.
Whatever.
uh, okay, so my number one, and there's a lot of superhero movies that I think that could, uh, like, there are a couple that I could have had on my list, but I only wanted one. Um, I think Thor Ragnarok is like far and above, way better than the Thor movies before it. They,
Mm,
I think it's interesting because they obviously were like they made their money, the original two, but somebody looked at them and said, well, they're not really that interesting or good, and I don't know. Some movie magic happened where they're like, hey, you know who would make a really good Thor Ragnarok movie? Taika Waititi. And I don't know how that like came together, but I'm so glad that it did. Kate Blanchett as the villain was just so good. The Jeff Goldblum being in it it was so interesting how that movie, I don't know, it's so eclectic. I don't see how it was successful, but I can't wait for the next one, Love and Thunder.
hmm
Oh, and also the soundtrack was just so good, and that retro futuristic style. It just was such a departure from the other ones, and it all worked.
Yeah, I think it's really funny that you bring up like, okay, like who thought of bringing in Taika Waititi? Because I would have never guessed that. Because the first two Thors are so self-serious, and then you get to the third one and it's almost making fun of itself, but in a really grand way. And also they were able to mine humor out of Chris Hemsworth that we didn't really know existed before. And they've been able to, relay that in the more recent Avengers films as well. So I think that's a fantastic pick.
Or yeah, because then it carries into the next movies, like in Endgame. He's the Thor Lebowski. They people lovingly call him. I think they call him something to relate to the dude because he looks like the dude.
A little
Yeah,
yeah. That is so funny. I did not think that you would pick that one, but that is such a great choice, and I agree with you. But I totally thought this one would be on your list. I was wrong. None of ours intersected. But not my number one favorite sequel that's better than the original is 100% The Dark Knight.
Oh.
And I know that this is kind of expected, and it should be expected because it is such a phenomenal sequel. But my reasoning to put this on this list is because I do not like Batman Begins at all. And
Hmm.
I've tried to watch it many times over, and I still cannot find myself to even find a likeness to that film. And then when The Dark Knight came out, it just blew me away. And obviously Heath Ledger, incredible. There's nothing really much to say that hasn't been said before, but I think this is the definitive sequel that's better than the original.
That's funny. I thought you were gonna pick John Wick.
That's honorable mentions.
And like I said, I mean, I did consider The Dark Knight, but I didn't want to have a bunch of superhero movies because I also think that is Far From Home, the second
Yes,
Spider-Man movie. Yeah, I think that one was better than the first too.
I would agree with you on that as well, definitely. Thank you so much, guys, for watching Lost in the Reel, and we will see you soon.
Laters.